Hi everybody, Puffin here. I just wanted to make a video about this idea that Antifa were involved somehow in the insurrection at the Capitol about a week ago today. And it's not true, so I kind of don't even want to say anything about it to give any credit to it, but most people already know it's not true. But for those people who are on the fence or not that informed, I just wanted to give some more information, some background to kind of show you how it's not true. And then specifically talk about this guy, Jayden X, or John Sullivan, who was on YouTube. And if you saw Capitol footage of the storming of the Capitol, you probably saw some of his footage, including the girl that got shot by the Capitol Police. So a lot of the news outlets used his footage, and I had watched his channel for a month or two before this event, and I've seen since then on the videos he's posted since that insurrection and previous to that, people leaving comments suggesting that he's a member of Black Lives Matter or Antifa. And then I've also seen Trump people's comments saying, they were at the storming of the Capitol and they saw the Antifa people there. And I think of him as being the type of person that they would maybe associate as an Antifa person. Maybe he wouldn't wear overtly Trump things. He's a black guy. So that could be, and as I said, plenty of people leaving comments on his page claiming that he's Antifa or Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm using him as an example. Unfortunately, I know that there are many other people who fall into this same type of category, who people have maybe mislabeled, or they don't even claim to be Trump supporters necessarily. But you can tell from their comments, from the way they title their videos even, just various things you can tell, but especially from just things they say coming right out of their mouth, that they are the Trump supporters. They're not pretending to be Trump supporters. Now, I feel like it's important here to mention what I think is a Kurt Vonnegut quote, that is, you are what you pretend to be. And so when these people are taking advantage of, a media story and trying to pretend to be somebody, then in some ways, they're participating in something. They appear to be somebody else at the protest for one side or the other, or protest or siege, as the case may be. And the difference is, you can tell what somebody really thinks by the way they speak, by what they say, and what they mean. And for instance, I'm not going to go through the whole video, like you've probably seen a lot of the footage of it, but I watched his whole video of the storming of the Capitol. And a number of things he said in the storming of the Capitol reveal him to be a Trump supporter, a genuine Trump supporter, supporting the other people in this Trumpian effort to take over the government, basically. And so that's telling in and of itself, and the way that he says it, the tone of his voice. First of all, it's him because he's got a characteristic voice. You can tell it's his voice, and he identifies himself halfway through the video, like gives his whatever, Twitter information or whatever it is, Instagram or something. So he's very well identified as this is who he is. But people have identified him as a BLM Antifa supporter. And maybe he's even said himself, or I think I've seen his comments to the extent that he's blended these two things, or, trying to bridge the gap. But there is none of that. There's this idea, another idea I want to push back against in this video is this idea that the extreme left and the extreme right circle around and become the... No. The extreme left is just correct. Sorry, if in the future this will be easier to understand, but the extreme left is correct. The extreme right, I don't mean like the violent extreme left. I mean people who have extremely leftist ideas. The extreme right, even their extreme right ideas, inevitably lead to violence. They're incorrect. So sorry, there's not a circling around. Now, while there might be people who are positioned to play both sides, such as this guy saying, Jayden X, saying he blends the two things and he participates in a Black Lives Matter protest. Well, anybody can do that. That's called an infiltrator. Now, if a Trump person comes over to a Black Lives Matter protest to cause trouble or to make them look bad, that's understood as an infiltrator. Now, these people would be claiming, oh no, this is someone from Black Lives Matter who's come to our Trump thing to make us look bad. On the one hand, he did instigate people pushing into the Capitol, which made everybody look bad. But also, they didn't need him to do that. Plenty of people had done it before him. He was is trying to be at the front of the lines as much as possible. But I'll get into some of the details of his actions during the Capitol. Just before I forget, in a Q&A, probably his last video he uploaded before I think they took him to jail, in a Q&A where he muted me, wouldn't let me comment for a while. Someone cleverly asked him, how many of the people who stormed the Capitol would you say were patriots? And so he's responding to these comments as he reads them into the video, so you might be able to still see his video on YouTube. And he says, I'd say 99.9% of them were patriots, if by patriots you mean MAGA people. So basically identifying that as positive, identifying as a MAGA person himself, even though he wouldn't necessarily say that outright. And again, people will leave comments saying, well, you're a Black Lives Matter. You were at a protest where a Trump person got shot. And I don't know the details of that, but maybe he was at the Black Lives Matter side of that. Maybe he even had something to do with the Trump protester getting shot. But that doesn't make him Black Lives Matter. That makes him most likely an infiltrator, especially considering what he said. So in his own video, as he's storming the Capitol, he says things like, burn it down, or when he gets to, we're going to burn this thing down, or when he gets to the top and the people are like using ropes to climb up, he helps some of them up and he's like, you guys are savage. Like, he's obviously really into it. And, just everything he says proves he's really into it. And then and that's probably criminal in itself, just being there and encouraging other people to go further. And he's always doing that, including saying, I've got a knife, when they get to a door they can't open or something. He's like, let me through, I've got a knife. And maybe he doesn't even have a knife, and that's his excuse to get to the front. But either way, he's saying, pushing them forward. When they get to some place where they meet the minimalist resistance from a few cops, he's one of the ones telling the cops, oh, I've seen these other cops getting hurt. You don't want to get hurt. Get out of the way. That's all his voice. Threatening cops, in my opinion, or from what I understand, the way cops interpret things, they can interpret lots of things as a threat. And that's like beyond, basic threat level. Maybe not something that Capitol Police hear very often, but you tell a regular police officer something like that and something's going down. So he keeps doing that over and over again, coming across like, I'm on your side, police, just get out of the way and let us through because I don't want you to get hurt, but these other cops are getting hurt. You should have seen this cop I just saw get hurt. I don't want that to happen to you. Basically threatening them with the mob violence. And so that continues. Saying he's got a knife continues. Right before the girl gets shot, he's been telling everybody, let's go, push forward, push ahead. So he's, at the vanguard of the whole Trumpian movement. And I guess you could be extremely confused and think you're somehow Antifa and doing that, but no, you're not. That's the thing to make clear. One point I want to make is that everyone is at heart Antifa. It's the only way to be. It's the only human way to be, is to be against fascism or against the oppression of other people. Now, when you're trying to support the continued oppression of other people and using violence and stuff to do that, you might be a fascist. So that's the case here. I'd figured out this guy was a fascist just from the way he talked in comments before this video, before the event of storming the Capitol, and he made that video that got him famous, which I guess is his motivation. And I kind of wanted to make a video about this a few days ago, saying, why hasn't this guy been arrested? And honestly, I was kind of afraid. And I want to point out to the people who think they believe in Jesus or claim to believe in Jesus, that there's a sin that's not forgiven in the Bible, and it's a sin against the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit could speak through anyone. You don't want to sin against that by ignoring them, or especially by threatening with violence someone to keep them from saying something. So just take that to heart, because that's for real. But that's what they do. They're trying to use violence to, quash the voice of the people in general through the vote. But they're also using violence in every way they can to intimidate people and keep people from doing things. So I didn't want to say anything about this guy while he's still running around loose. Now that I think he finally has been arrested, it's maybe not safer because it's a network of these evil people. And maybe to be against me. But I don't want to operate based on fear. And more, I want to speak to people who might be part of that network and say, maybe you've been or surely you have been misled. But if it's hard to understand that, maybe take this one example. Do you think this guy was Black Lives Matter or Antifa? Is he what Black Lives Matter or Antifa means to you? Because he's actually just a terrorist that they sent to make Black Lives Matter look bad. If anything, I don't think he was ever convincing to me as a Black Lives Matter activist, no matter what he said about that. And my first clue should have been the fact that his videos were available on YouTube. And I want you to appreciate this fact. I've been looking all year for protest videos, trying to just keep up with the things that the news might not show you from live streamers and stuff on YouTube. And while I have found some, I can't find them through any combination of search terms and adjustments to try to find live stream videos. Only certain people's videos come up when I use those types of terms, or when I'm trying to do a search for a protest that I know is actively going on and people should be live streaming. And they're always fascists. They're always right-wing, libertarian type slash Boogaloo, like these Trumper and Canadian Trumper live streamers who, for the most part, they're using what seems to be a format maybe provided by a government agency or a news agency here in America. I'm thinking possibly this new News Nation thing, because they claim to have so many reporters around. But they're all using the same format where they have different live streams, or supposed live streams. They have different things that are like live streams of different protests, maybe some of each side, but usually just this protest, or some character, somebody here and there. And they'll click back and forth between them, and they'll have an audience watching along with them doing live chat. And the one that comes up a lot, I don't want to give him any promotion, but some Canadian guy who has hundreds of people watching live with him and leaving supportive comments, or leaving comments that during the protest it was all about cheering on the police, beat up the protesters, and all these people need to get a job, just all that typical stuff, really disgusting stuff. But I would go on there just to talk back to him and give a separate opinion and try to criticize that viewpoint, and give some actual information. And it was disgusting to me how they would mute whenever anybody spoke, they would mute it, or they'd switch to a different stream. Like, they would try to keep anyone from getting any information out of the protest as much as they could, just presenting it for like a for these people to cheer on the police. Now, these types of videos are the only ones YouTube would allow you to search. So when I found this guy Jayden X, when one of his videos popped up, I should have known he was right wing, because the only thing they'll let you search right wing. Now, the reason I know that there are other videos is because if you can zoom in on the screen enough to these little, separate windows they have on these restream videos, you can sometimes see the name of the original streamer. And I would look that person up and follow them. And some of those people seem to be legit. Now, I don't know if that's how I came across Jayden X in the first place, but be that as it may, I got to his channel and would leave comments, and then became concerned because it seemed like, well, this is a black guy. How could he be a Trumper? How could he not be supporting Black Lives Matter genuinely? And because he seemed to be, kind of trying to navigate this middle ground, or persuade people to think that it's okay to be black and be a Trumper, or okay to be a Trumper at all, no matter who you are, or okay to be Antifa and a Trumper, which that's just not a thing. Like, Trump is fascism. Antifa is against fascism. The fact that Trump can try to tell people, no, the Antifa is the true fascist, like, that's a Nazi tactic of lying all the time and blaming people for the things you do. So these things have to be called out and countered. And that's basically why I want to make this video. I think they did finally arrest Jayden, or John Sullivan from Utah, who made these videos, was guilty of many crimes just by being there, but also by egging people on. And then, you see him in his Q&A videos or in his comments and stuff defending himself, saying that I'm just a journalist. Well, that's not journalism. There were journalists there at the Capitol taking pictures and videos. Maybe they were already at the Capitol. Maybe they even did go in with the storm in some way. I kind of doubt that. But I know for a fact there were journalists in the Capitol. We've seen some of their images or videos from, journalists who were already there, who were supposed to be in there. And they're not committing any types of crimes. And, people who are maybe just going along to film it, maybe it's a crime to enter those grounds if you're not supposed to be there. But there could be a legitimate cause for saying, hey, I'm here to document this. But not when you're calling out for it too and egging everything on. Like, that's obviously being part of it. And if you say, well, I was just faking that to get in with them, at some point it doesn't matter. It's like Trump saying, well, I was just faking to do everything Putin wants just to get on his good side and then pull the rug out from under. No, well, it hasn't happened yet, So you got 24 hours to go. So I want to say this to talk people out of any idea that there was anyone from Antifa and somehow instigating the Trump insurrection, much less most of them. And this idea started shortly after the riot happened from some Republican who came out and claimed that some facial recognition software had said that, and the facial recognition software company said, no, all we found were white supremacists and all these other people, terrorists, but for the right, and nobody from Antifa whatsoever. So it's been something they've been trying to perpetuate, just to blame the other side for literally what they did, but also something they've worked on, with these various characters like Jayden X, where they try to position somebody as, I'm for protest, I'm for, Americans' free speech, but when I'm really for Trump, then no, those things are ultimately contradictory. And just another big irony I don't have time to get into, but these people complaining about Trump getting banned from Twitter when what he's doing is inciting violence and hate speech. I've been banned from Twitter for 8 years for nothing. I used to tweet Pope Francis, and he never even deleted my tweets when all these other people troll him and he'd have to delete their tweets. So, I was pretty good. But are the ideas dangerous to an establishment? Or I have no idea why I've been banned. But the point is that this positioning of people to be Antifa, to make them look bad, or to even kill police, the Boogaloo movement, who are, in my opinion, pure Trumpers. They might claim that they're also against Trump, but it's just, again, just trying to cover different demos so they can bring more people into the whole network. But they were actually out killing Trumpers during the protest. Killing police during the protests to make the protest look bad. And every single police officer that got killed, to my knowledge, during the protest was killed by one of these Boogaloo terrorists that Trump has something to do with. They're just like Proud Boys, but, with a funnier name. And, and they don't claim to be as pro-authority. But it's, again, they just have people within the authorities. If they've infiltrated the authorities themselves, they've infiltrated the police and the military in so many ways to feel like they have their clout as the KKK. I don't think they actually do have what they thought they did. But they've got plenty, especially in the police. And they've infiltrated that and can take out the officers that stand in their way, for instance. That's one of the problems, that, it's just a bad system perpetuating its badness. And we can put a stop to it in the long run, but we've got to call out these double agents or just this complete bullshit that suggests, hey, the worst things we've ever did, that was actually you guys doing. No, they are responsible for their actions. Again, it feels stupid even making this video because so many people have been caught and it's been verified how Trumpy they actually are. So what really needs to happen is it goes further into the politicians and other campaign staff and Trump himself who organized it all, which I think is starting to get to that point. But just so that we shake that whole thing down and let everybody know that you can't get away with this crap. So I think that this particular media person has been arrested, but I was watching some earlier and got kicked off their stream or banned from commenting on their live chat when they're trying to live stream some type of gun rights protest / Black Panthers marching in Richmond, Virginia. And I should specify there was the gun rights, Proud Boys, Trumper type protest, and then a separate Black Lives Matter, NFAC, Black Panthers march. And they were showing this as a live stream, and of course these people are commenting and taking this real Trumpy side because that's how you know that that's what the channel stands for, is because that's the type of people who are mostly on there. And the fact that they banned me for making comments critical of it, saying you shouldn't support this. That stream got taken down as we're watching it, as some other ones of this Richmond event did, probably for glorifying guns, which some of them were. You think, well, maybe it got taken down because something happened. Well, as far as I've heard, nothing really happened. But these streamers are definitely on the side of glorifying these gun terrorists. Plenty of people like guns. You don't need the NRA to like guns. But the NRA has got people, because it's a scam organization. The last I heard was being taken down for being a scam. has convinced people into this terrorist mindset. And you just don't need it. Like, I don't like guns myself. I like them fine in video games, and I think they're more fun in video games. But for people that like them and enjoy them, that's fine. Nobody's really doing anything about that. These people are just are working each other up to such extremes that they do things that do make it necessary to find some way to restrict people's access to guns. So it's like they're literally shooting themselves in the foot, and these guys shooting their cameras, thinking that makes them a journalist when they're supporting and part of an insurrection. It's good that they face consequences, but there's more of them out there, and you can see their names in the top corner of the screen. I guess until the media companies buy that, but you can see who they are. And as I said, they're still active. It was just yesterday I was on one of these streams of people who have access to these protest streams, or their own reporters there, as part of the mob. And, they're muting me from my comments because they can't handle free speech. That's what fascism fears the most. But when people catch up to these people for being part of this, then I think it'll teach people, hey, you can record things, and you should record things, but don't become part of a mob, with someone thinking that you're going to have the excuse of recording it, that journalism is going to somehow allow you to do something that you should really know is wrong. And again, the more we talk about this, the more everybody will know it's wrong. The more everybody will realize that, hey, Antifa is just good. That's why I'm wearing my Antifa party hat for the last 24 hours until we get rid of Trump. Because not being fascist is just a good thing. We need to start using words for what they actually mean and talking about stuff enough so that people understand things. And they know that there was, Trumpers were not infiltrated by Antifa to do their actions. They were just motivated by their own fascism and fascist leaders. And that's what we need to stop and make sure it doesn't happen again. So thanks for watching, and please leave comments or any information you want in the comments below. Have a great day, and the last day of the Trump presidency. So we'll be moving on soon for much better things. Go Joe. Go America.